Good morning, welcome to another episode of Daniel Lee Plastering and Rendering. Hopefully I'll try and keep the audio does this pretty flower, it does keep disconnecting for some reason. I'll try and keep an eye on it. Say good morning, Eve. Happy? We're just setting up. Again, we're on quite a busy road, so I'm having to jump in and out of the van to avoid traffic. So we've gotten all the beads on. We did them yesterday. I like to get the beads on the day before if possible. You can do them the same day, and if you're on a smaller job, absolutely, sometimes you have to. You'll do the beads and then render. But this is a decent chunk, so there's plenty. You can easily spend a day getting these beads lovely. What I like to use as well is Soldald's Fix All High Tack. You can also use, so if I was doing it the same day, I would use this version, but the turbo. They do a turbo version that goes hard after about 15 minutes, and you can apply render easily half an hour after putting them on. Chris, well done. He's done a great job. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Very nice. And then where the damp course is, as always, we've got a full bead. So the great thing about this, not only is it a strong glue, but it's also a sealer. So you can use this as a sealer. And what we've done, got a full strip of sealant all along where the damp course is. So we're extending that damp course, so there is no break whatsoever. We will also use waterproof render below and then lime render above. So when you've got two different substrates, so you can see the original extension, the new extension, there's even the existing render in the middle here. This is a really high risk of cracking. A way to minimize the risk significantly is to glue an expansion bead on. Now you also have an expansion joint. There's also, I think it looks like, which I didn't spot the first time round, they extended to here, and then at a later date have extended again to here. So you've actually got another break here that you can see. So this is also a very high risk of. So again, minimize it by putting an expansion joint on. It's normally, I believe, about every 16 square meters. Typically you want some sort of break in the render if possible to reduce your risks of cracking. So we will put this over here. This is a bit unusual to have two expansion beads together on this wall, but it will massively reduce the chances of cracking in this area. On the other side of the wall as well, there is a matching one that we will also do. Basically, an expansion joint allows for movement, for a bit of expansion, as it says in the name. So as things expand and contract, the wall doesn't crack. The expansion joint it allows the area to have a bit of movement, which is why we're going to put them in. Okay, so I use this. Oops, that's annoying. Totally.
Found it.
Well done. Oh, what's the woo? Wobble, wobble. Lovely. Okay. Sold all. Yeah, enough. I like a nice big end because we use quite a lot of this stuff, so none of these teeny little holes. Right, for the amount of sealing we do, I like. This is just the Ryobi sealant gun. Not perhaps a well-known heavy-duty brand, but actually I find for certain products they're brilliant. And then nice fit. You can do clumps, you can do a full bead, depending on how it is. And then follow the line. The expansion bead there, and just line it up roughly. And now, because this brickwork's a bit wobbly, I can already tell it's not gripped in certain parts. So put a bit more where it's needed. There. Fantastic. I am quite generous with this stuff because I want to make sure it sticks, doesn't move. So you can use, so pink grip is another one that I was talking about earlier. It's okay, I used to use it. The issue I had with it is if there was damp in the wall, or if any moisture got into the pink grip, it would absorb that moisture and bleed through the render. Whereas this particular stuff is completely waterproof. Once pink grip's dried, it's completely waterproof too. It can be used outside, don't get me wrong, pink grip's fine. But the issue I had is it couldn't be used in quite as many conditions. You can use this stuff in the wet. So even if you're dealing with a wet wall, this stuff will stick and dry beautifully. I just want to get it level. That way, just double check. I also find the more dabs, the easier it is to get level. This wall's a little bit off level. Let's come out a bit there at the top and in a bit at the bottom. I do normally wear gloves as well, because this stuff is horribly sticky. But again, if you've got grime wipes, I've got a stash of grime wipes on hand. They wipe this stuff off beautifully. That's pretty good there. Let's come out a bit at the top. Much better there. Wonderful. Now, another great tip when fixing your beads, because it can be tricky to get them just right, especially the corners. Once you've got your beads in place, they sometimes, this is quite good because this is a finished one, there's a bit of wiggle, there can be a bit of wiggle room around here, just a little. I find just a drop of mitre glue, lining it up in position, and a quick spray with its accelerator, just on the tip, you'll see there's just a tiny dot of glue, and that just allows it to stay in place until it's all been fully rendered, and then the render will hold it in place. But just for now, and then that allows you a near as we can get perfect finish on the beads there. Because what can happen, with the best will in the world, you dab these up, and sometimes they can wiggle a little bit at these edges or be a little bit flappy. So over the decades. That's the best method I've personally found. Happy to hear better ones if you've got them. Always love to learn new things. Let me know. So this is another lovely example of where you want an expansion joint. It's irrelevant of whether it's more or less than 15, 16 square metre. I think it's 16 square metres-ish, something like that. The fact is, you've got two different materials that are going to contract, heat up differently, and that's going to cause potential movement. So an expansion joint is just covering your bases, really. You've got one in there. Render does crack for here and there. It's unavoidable in the grand scheme of things. But what you certainly can do is minimise it, and that is one way to minimise the cracks.
How do I screw it on? Lefty loose is this way. I think I'm screwing it off now.
I suspect you are. Right.
Oh, yeah, screw it off.
Let's get a nice measure the length. 215. Get your tin snips. You can also get expansion joints in all different sizes, from 3mm that I've seen, basically as thick as you like. I think these ones are the 12, 14mm ones, I think, because lime render's quite thick. So also one of lime render's features, a part of it is the thickness. So you do not want 3mm of lime render, because that's not enough lime render to protect the wall. Unlike thin coat render system, for example. And then I like to always point. Okay. Now, I want this to sit flush to my drip bead, so I'm cutting back this section here, just the first 4 or 5 centimetres, so that when I put it on, it goes over the top, sits over the top of this, and has room to sit flush to that drip bead there. In this instance, this is all going to be squared off. And that sits nicely there. And dabs. Now, to do this right, you will tear through your tubs, your tubes. Got another one here in the ready. Don't necessarily have to do this much, but I like to do a dab every 8 or 10 inches, something like that. Press that on. Just loosely press it on to start with. Then, if I was organised, grab my spirit level, which is just around here, and just roughly check where it wants to be, which is about there. And now just make sure the dabs are on, because this wall is quite damaged, so you might find you need quite thick dabs. Not too bad there. Just want to make sure this grip's nice. Quite a large hole here. I'm using a bit more glue there. So make sure that's level there. This way as well. That's pretty good there. Happy with that. Also, if your beads are slightly bent or damaged, which can happen sometimes in transportation or storage even, having these extra dabs can really help straighten them out. If your beads are beautiful, sharp, crisp, flat, lovely, you've stored them well, you can get away with far less dabs. If there's an incentive to look after your beads. Now that's where it wants to be. I'm going to come down the detail work that makes the difference. Right here, see this bit of plastic's a bit flappy. Maybe just a tiny, you don't need a lot. A little bit of glue there. And a quick spray. That will just hold that in place right there, nice and flush. Easy peasy. Nice. Just to show you that bit there. You can see where I've cut away and then nice and flush there.
Bees, since I'm working on top of a beehive, this is dangerous territory. I will smite thee down. You shall not threaten my plastering.
We do like to enjoy ourselves at work, don't we?
Yeah, I'm ready to work when you are. Yeah, let's get this job done.
I like to get the mesh mostly cut beforehand. I'm almost at the end of this roll. And I like to use scissors. You can use a Stanley. I find sometimes Stanleys they can fray the edges, which can be a bit of a pain. If you've got a nice sharp one, you're probably not going to have a problem. But yeah, Stanley knife works well. Scissors are my favourite. Scissors are the best. Nice sharp, just keep them sharp, keep them nice and clean and sharp. And then I will get them mostly like cut to size. They might need trimming a touch, but save you a lot of time, because once you start rendering, once it starts spraying on the wall, especially with line render over this stuff, it will suck in fairly quick. So you do want to get over it fairly sharpish. So you don't want to be faffing over too long about the mesh. I'm almost out of here. I've got a full leather bead. It's actually all the same height, which is nice. And that is too short. You can join it, but there's no need in this instance because I've got lots of other places I can use that, so I'll use that in other areas. And I will open up the new roll. Yeah, look at that. Super uninterested with that. That is the new speaker I got. It's not a cheap one either. And this is the transmitter. And it just fell, it wasn't even that big a fall, and just popped straight off. And personally do not know how to fix that. Very disappointing. A day old. Okay, back on bad audio I'm afraid, but we are now hosing all the wall down. We are ready to go. Ethan's about to get a 5-bag mix on. Chris is giving this all a good soak. It's already been dusted, brushed for any loose debris. Now we give it a nice soak, as this is quite porous and it will suck in. It's a nice day today. It's about 20 degrees C. Just to give you an idea, that's warm enough to give it a really nice thorough soaking. And Ethan's mixing now. I'll give him a hand.